everyone, and welcome to Season 3 of One on One, the show where we highlight and connect with Salle Communication alumni. I'm your host, Hannah Balkowski, and today we will be interviewing Iuele, who graduated in 2014 and works as a camera assistant on the show The Blacklist. So, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So you work as a camera assistant on the show The Blacklist. Can you tell us a little bit about what a day in the life is like on set?
Yeah. So I am a second assistant. I work on the C camera. So we work as a 3-camera show. So I work only specifically with that one camera for the whole duration of the show. And I basically help to get the camera set up in whatever angles and positions that we need to be in for whatever scene we're shooting. I help to put on the lenses. I help to basically make sure all the gears are correct and, checking the iris to make sure it's okay. And basically just doing all the technical work to make sure the camera is functioning properly. In addition to assisting with, moving the equipment around and making sure everything is working. I also help to mark the actors. So whenever we have a rehearsal, we go in and we mark the actors' positions so that they know where they're going to be standing during a certain scene or moving. So it's kind of fun. I get to have a relationship with them too, which just like everybody, actors are people. So you get the good and the bad. But it's nice to kind of have a very integral part of being on set and kind of being in the background. So you feel like you're a part of everything every day. I also slate the camera, which is what people most know me for. So, the person that stands in front with the slate is take one, that's the second assistant's claim to fame. For me personally, I also help to run our department with hiring and equipment stuff. And I also do a lot of the paperwork for our department. So there's a lot of different roles. So I feel like it's nice because I get to be on set, but I also have some administration stuff. And, I kind of get to have a little role in everything, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, it's like a breakup of being, in an office and then being on set. That's
yes.
Nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It's I find it to be kind of the best of both worlds. And I feel like that's the best way to kind of describe it. And, every role in our department is a little different. So, as I work through the chain, I feel like so far, this has been kind of my favorite role so far.
Okay. What other roles have you done in other projects and things?
Yeah. So when you kind of start out as a camera assistant, you start out as a loader. So there's kind of 2 different positions in loading. It depends on where you live. If you're out in LA or in Atlanta versus New York, there's a little bit of a different hierarchy as you move up. But there's a utility, which is basically someone who does all the running of the cable and helps to set up the monitors and is also helping the DP sometimes, depending on if there's a DIT on set, which is a digital technician. So that's kind of one. So they're kind of the runners that we like to say. And then there's the loaders who are also kind of the runners, but they also deal with all the media aspect. Or if you're actually using film, they're the ones loading the cans of film. So they have a huge role on set. They have to know how much to order, how many cards we're getting back from post-production. And, there's a lot of they do a lot of the organizing. So the whole truck is their domain of making sure that everything's organized and that we have all the equipment that we need and, expendables like pens and tape and markers and everything. So being organized is really important from the bat. And I think that that's something that if you're willing to learn and you're willing to be an organized person, you're going to do really well, even if you don't know kind of exactly what you're doing all the time, because nobody knows, until you get on set, you're not going to know. And every crew does it a little differently. So I came up through being a loader for about 5 or 6 years. And then I transitioned into a second assistant. And then after second comes first assistant, who pulls focus for the camera, and then the camera operator who operates the actual camera, and then the DP. So there's like, it's like a pretty distinct like chain of people, and you kind of just like move up. But it's been so busy that people are moving up really fast. So, it's been a little crazy because I feel like there's really amazing parts about that. And then there's like, people are jumping into things way before they're ready. So, it's been kind of interesting to watch it from a point of view of like being in this industry for about 10 years now. And also, seeing the different parts and people working throughout the whole chain. So,
right. Well, there's a lot of, I didn't know that there are that many people, working the cameras. Like there's so many people that go into creating a show or a movie. I feel like a lot of people don't, think about that.
Yeah, it was actually during the pandemic was really intense because we were all unemployed. So I was actually pregnant and I was expecting our son in May of 2020. So COVID parent, which was kind of crazy. But I was working on set, and when everything got shut down in March, it was like, everyone kind of went home, and everyone who was unemployed or working from home were like watching tons and tons of TV and movies and stuff, because that's what else do you do when you're stuck inside for months on end. But there was this huge like thing on social media going around of like people who work in the film industry who were like, don't forget about all the people who worked on these jobs that are creating the entertainment for you that you're watching at home. So, there was a lot of like interesting things going on with that, and like people feeling like we're all unemployed right now. So like, as much as you guys are enjoying this, like, don't forget to support, the people after this whole thing happens, and like continue to watch these shows, and understanding how many people are actually do work in that industry and are, that's their job. So I think that it is true. Like when you see all the, everyone leaves during the credits, but it's like, there's like names and names and names and names, especially if you watch like any of like the Marvel or like any of those things. I mean, the credits literally go on for like 20 minutes after the movie ends. So yeah, I always say it's the best group project. I mean, everybody who's there has a role, and everybody's role is important. We can't do our job if those people aren't doing their role. So I find that it's really fun. Like I always liked group projects in college, and I always feel like I just got to a more advanced group project in my career. So it's nice.
Yeah. And speaking of like credits, I went back because I know you worked on A Quiet Place Part 2. I went back on, I think it's on Paramount Plus. So I went and I was like going through the credits to find your name, and I found it. I was like, wow, that's so cool. I kind of know this person. What is that feeling like for you? Like when you see your name in the credits of a movie?
It feels like you accomplished something. And every project is like a new accomplishment. So I feel like the first time I worked on a movie, my first job ever was when I was actually at LaSalle. My uncle was transitioning from a gaffer who was the head of lighting to a director of photography. So he was working on this kind of like small non-union horror movie. And he was like, I was during the summer of my junior year going into my senior year. So exactly where you are. And he called me and he's like, hey, we're having a hard time finding assistants who want to come out, because like the pay is a lot lower than like people would normally have. But like, for me, I was like, that sounds great. It was like still so much more money than I was making, waitressing or whatever. And I remember working on that, and every project just feel like my uncle once described it to me as like, it's like a life cycle. Like the project is born, you live through it, and then it dies. Like, cause no project is the same. Like even out of all the seasons I worked on Blacklist, no 2 seasons have been the same. Like there's never the same exact people. There's never the same exact vibe. Like it's like each individual season or commercial or TV show or whatever, it's like its own entity at that moment, and then when it's done, it's done. And then you don't really know what's going to happen after that. So, I feel like every time I see my name in the credits, it like brings me back to like what that project was, or like how much, energy and time and everything we put into it, whether it was amazing or horrible, like
Yeah.
whatever happens. And like, that's also kind of the nice part, is that like, even if a job is like awful, it's going to be over at a certain point, so like, there's kind of something nice about that too, because like, for most people who work in a job, they could be like miserable for years. Whereas like, it's like a really tough couple of months. And then you're kind of like, okay, well, that one's done. And hopefully I don't have to go through that ever again,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I remember the first time seeing my name in the credits. It was like, it was awesome. It was like really fun to feel included, I guess, and like recognized for. And, again, I don't think it matters whether you're a production assistant or the director. Like, it's always kind of a nice thing to see your name and feel a part of something.
Yeah, definitely. I think like the recognition, and you kind of feel rewarded for it. Like even when I like put together like a really bad video, but then it's like you see your name in the lower thirds, like I did something. It's,
No,
but
it is. It feels like inclusive, you feel
yeah.
like we, no matter what happened on this job or how good or bad it is, we did that together.
Yeah, exactly. So at LaSalle, you were part of LTV as a producer and host of the show News You Can Use. What was
Mhm.
that experience like for you? And like, what are your favorite memories from that?
The minute I walked into LaSalle TV, I remember like for like the accepted students day or something, I felt very like at home there. Like I was like, I feel like this is like a place that I could see myself. And, Tanya is just great and easy to get along with. So I felt like, she was really awesome about pushing people to be involved and, hey, come produce this show, come see what this is about. So I did a bunch of different sports shows in the beginning. And then I think I met Thera, who is, I don't even know if it's still on, but she was the host of News You Can Use at the time. And she was just lovely. And I was like, and I think they were looking for a new producer, and Tanya was like, how would you feel about doing this? And I was like, if it's with Thera, absolutely. Like, she just seems great to work with. And she really was. And we had a really good bond. And I remember I just loved what she was doing for the community. And I loved how like outgoing she was, and she would get really interesting people to come on and talk. And, Philadelphia is such like, it's a small town inside of a city, so I felt like it meant a lot to her to be there, which made me feel like it meant a lot to me to be there for her. Some of my favorite memories are, I'm trying to think. I remember, like I said, a lot of the people that she had brought on from Philadelphia were really great. And I really enjoyed hearing about all the different organizations in the community and trying to help promote them. Made me feel a little bit more like included in Philly, feeling like I was
Yeah.
doing something to help. And I had a really good crew of people who would come consistently, which was really awesome, because you feel like, okay, like my crew is here with me and like helping me out. And one of the people who would come in all the time, her name was Amanda Keaton, and she actually took over News You Can Use after I left, which felt really good to kind of like pass the torch to somebody. And we're actually still in touch, and she lives in New York, and we've kind of talked back and forth. And I think she's still doing some stuff like in the media world. So, just, I think the connections I made there. And I had this like awful day once on a day that I was supposed to be shooting, and I went for a run on Kelly Drive, and I lost my car key on my run.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't figure out how I was going to get home. And like, I didn't have my cell phone on me, or I don't know. It was just like a crazy day. So I had to pay like $300 to have a locksmith come out
Oh
and
my.
like help get me a key and all this stuff. And I still made it back for the show. And I was so mad and like frustrated, but I was just like, all right, I just got to go in and do this show. And I guess, I don't know if I told Thera or if Tanya told her, but she wrote me like this long letter about how like, most people would have never showed up that day or like whatever. And she was like, but you did. And like, it means a lot to me, and it means a lot about your character. And I actually just stumbled upon that email like a few days ago, and I was reading it and I was like, wow, that's so crazy that like, you know, I still hold that email very close to my heart because like it meant a lot to me. I was like, no, I have to be there. Like I have to make sure I'm there for Thera. So, you know, the fact that she appreciated that and noticed it meant a lot to me. So I feel like professionally, it helped me to kind of like grow as a person outside of the classroom in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. And then in the classroom, what do you think you learned, like, or the most helpful thing you learned at LaSalle that helped you in your career?
I remember I told people this a couple of times. I mean, honestly, I don't just say this to like toot their horn, but like, I love the professors at LaSalle because I feel like they're extremely down to earth and I feel like they're really real. Like they don't sugarcoat things for you. Like they're just kind of like, this is who I am and this is who we all are. And this is what's happening in the world. And like, how are you going to go and make a difference in this world? And I think that the biggest thing that I learned was just like having, you know, obviously a bunch of knowledge from a lot of different things. Like even if you decide you're going to be, you know, in the mass media track, like go take a public relations class, like go take a journalism class. Like it's only going to make you stronger, even if it's not your forte. So I think having like a lot of different things that you can work with and have in your back pocket, even if it's not your major, it's still really helpful to have that. And I like that you don't have to just stick with your track. Like you do have a little bit of leniency there. And also getting along with a lot of different personalities. Like, I mean, whether it be the staff or the students or whatever, like you've got a lot of characters in there. And that's how it is when you get out in the real world. It's like you have to learn how to work with people. And I think doing those group projects that are constantly, you know, consisted of like in the different classes in the communication building, you're going to have a lot of group projects. And, you know, a lot of people roll their eyes like, oh, you know, this person doesn't do that, or this person, you know, doesn't always do this, but like kind of learning how to deal with that is really important for any career that you have, not just communication, because you're going to have to work with people, whether you're working from home or not, like you're still in cahoots with other people to get something done. So I think that it's really important to learn how to do that and do it well, and kind of like how to balance a lot of different types of people, personalities, like different backgrounds. Like, I think that that's a really important skill that you can use anywhere.
Yeah, as Tanya always says, life is just one big group project.
It seriously is. Like definitely.
Yeah, I feel like that's been like ingrained in my brain now. Like always push through.
Yes.
So is there a particular moment where you wanted to do media, like you knew that was the field for you?
It took me a little while to figure out. I mean, I think that's the direction I kind of saw myself going in for a while. But I definitely think that early on, as much as I loved doing LaSalle TV, I was like, I really don't want to be in broadcast TV. Like it just wasn't my thing. I thought there was a lot of people that were really good at doing it. I remember going to different TV stations off of like City Line Ave and just kind of being like, I don't know if I see myself here. You know, I think I see myself. I like things to be different all the time. And even though in my life now, 10 years later, that can be very challenging, I also kind of like that my day is different every single day. You know, like I don't go to the same office every day. I don't do the same thing. So I kind of like the change. But yeah, it took me a little while. I did some PR stuff. I did a lot of TV stuff. I was doing some writing. Like I was like, where do I fit in here? But I remember that I went to an informational meeting about the Cannes Film Festival, and I ended up applying and I got in. And in 2012, I went to the Cannes Film Festival under like LaSalle, you know, like as a student of LaSalle, and being there and kind of seeing everything and getting the process of like making a movie and then seeing it on the big screen. I was kind of like, you know what? I think this is where I want to go. Like I would rather be on this side of things than be on the TV side of things. Or like, obviously I work in TV now, but you know, like more in the creative, dramatic TV rather than like a news station.
Right.
So that was my sophomore year. And then going forward, I kind of pressed forward with like, I want to work in film and TV. And, I was able to create contacts and meet people, whether it was through LaSalle or through family and friends. And it worked out, but it was tough. I was confronted that I needed to take the camera assistant test. Basically they only offered it once a year. And my now husband, who I also met at LaSalle and was a communication major, we decided we were going to move to New York, or like we live in Jersey City. But they were like, okay, if you want to get into the union and start working as a camera assistant, you have to take this test, and it's only offered once a year and it's in May. So I was like, okay, so I'm supposed to be graduating and taking this massive test that like is going to dictate my future career outside of college. So I was driving back and forth from from Philly to New York every weekend to take preparation classes. And I took the test in the end of May, and between finals and that, I was just done. Like, I was like, whatever happened. I did what I could. And I passed by like the skin of my teeth. Like, it was like, I was like, C's get degrees. I got it. It didn't matter what the score was. I was just so happy that I passed, cause it was not an easy test. It was like a 3-hour long written part and like multiple, like things where you had to build cameras and like load film. It was crazy. So I was just like, by the end of it, I was like, well, I put my best foot forward, but I was so lucky to get in because a lot of people would have to wait a whole nother year just to do that. So, I felt very fortunate that even though I had to really hustle at the end, I was able to get in and start working. So, so it took a little while to figure out. And I think that that's totally normal. And even when you get out of college, a lot of people are still figuring out what they want to do. I don't think that that's weird. I think that most people, it takes them a little while, but it's kind of trial and error. Like, what you learn in the classroom is definitely going to help you with wherever you go forward. But every job is different, and every place has got a different way of teaching people and, kind of integrating them into the new role that you're having. So, I think that just like a big willingness to be open and learn and put whatever knowledge you have forward is the most important thing with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that motivation that you were talking about, with finals and graduation and then taking that test, I think that's one of the biggest parts of like being successful in the media industry. You have to want it really bad. And that's,
it's true. I think it's, it's who you know, which definitely helps. But I think that I always tell people, I'm like, even if you don't know anyone, if you work hard, people are going to notice. Like, if you come in with a good attitude and you ask questions and, want to put something into it, like, that means a lot to people. So like, it is who you know, but it's also who you are as a person.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have any upcoming projects or anything that you know of?
Right now I'm kind of taking a little break. Blacklist goes for 10 months out of the year. So it's a very long project. It's one of the longest, projects in the industry. Like, people don't work that long. They're all like, you're crazy. But it's become such a family to me that it's like really hard to leave. Nobody thought we would be going on to season 10. So that's a whole other thing. So I'm like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. At the moment in time, Blacklist is set to start in September. So if all goes well, I'll probably be going back onto that. I did have a back injury back in October, and I was out of work for 4 months. So it's been a little intense to kind of like go from COVID and having a baby to back injury and getting back into work and, all this stuff. So I was kind of like, you know what, I think I'm going to like take a breather. But usually in like July, August, there's usually some like features or commercials that come in for like a small project. So I don't have anything in my back pocket as of yet other than Blacklist, but I'm sure that there will be things coming up. And I've had some friends kind of call me about other projects to come like work part-time, but I was on vacation. So I was like, I'm just going to not do that right now. But it seemed like usually May and June, oddly enough, are usually pretty quiet for the film industry in New York. I feel like a lot of people are traveling. I feel like a lot of TV shows end around April and May. So then there's like this little lull period. And then like July is when things kind of really start picking up again with like features. And it's weird how like it's very cyclical. Like I feel like all the shows tend to start and end at the same time, which is like good and bad in certain ways. I think people who just want to work 24/7 are like, hey, why is there not a whole lot of things going on? But it's been so busy with like all the different platforms, and especially after COVID, everybody's just trying to make up for lost time. So, you know, it's definitely been a crazy time to be a camera assistant.
Oh yeah, I bet.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, if anyone is interested, like, I don't want to say like, don't waste your time PAing, but like, it's really important to get your foot in the door somewhere. But like, as soon as you have an opening, if you're interested in a certain department, just go, because like right now it's just like, they're just begging for people to join so that they can get more people working. So it's a good time to want to be in this industry.
Do you have any last piece of advice for students who are, you know, interested in media?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously like doing anything like this where you get to like kind of talk to different alumni who are involved in many different parts. And I always thought LaSalle was great because even though it's not like a film school, like they have a lot of people involved in a lot of different areas of media, whether it be like radio or, you know, news or sports or, you know, whatever. I feel like there's been a lot of success in a lot of different realms, which is kind of, I always felt was nice because it's like, you don't feel like it's just one track. Like there's many different people with many different outcomes after all going to the same school. And I think because we don't go to a film school, I think people support each other a little bit more. I know it sounds terrible, but I feel like there's not as much competition as to one thing. Like I feel like, again, everybody's kind of in their own lane and trying to figure it out. And like, when somebody else comes along and is like, hey, I'm kind of interested in that. It's like, I feel like people are more open rather than being like trying to get ahead of somebody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, taking any opportunity you can to talk to alumni, to take any opportunities to like, there's always students who are looking for help with, you know, film projects, or, you know, sometimes teachers need help with certain things. Like I remember I did like this thing on the Civil War with one of the professors, Good Coop, who is like one of the founders of the comm department. And, you know, he just loved history. So he really wanted to do like a little, you know, 5-minute package on that. And, you know, I just helped him shoot it and put it together and stuff. So like kind of just anything you can get your hands into. And there's there's a lot of great opportunities for students around Philadelphia, especially because there's just so many colleges. But, again, I know it's a little tricky right now, but if you reach out to places, you just never know like what people are looking for. So kind of just being confident in yourself, but also outreaching a little bit more to like something you might be interested in. Like, even if it's not a full, like Monday through Friday or whatever internship, maybe just helping out on weekends or something, you know, might be a good opportunity. So I just always feel like college specifically, I always felt like is whatever you make of it, you know, like, yes, there's your curriculum and your projects and your homework and whatever, but especially as a comm student, like it's really like all that you want to put into it going forward and where your interests lie. And I think that there's no lack of things, especially now with like YouTube, TikTok, like there's 1,000 things you can do. And I know that sounds silly, but like, you know, anything you can to just like get extra practice or, you know, any sort of like hey, like that seems kind of cool. Like maybe I'll check out that. Or like, you know, I knew friends of mine who would just like bought a GoPro and would just like shoot people like, you know, walking around campus or whatever, and just like put together a little video. And, you know, so things like that, I always feel like are helpful and make it feel like you're doing a little bit extra to like find yourself, I guess.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Well, good luck with everything, Hannah. I think that you're, you know, going into senior year. I hope things calm down a little bit for everybody in terms of COVID and everything. But, you know, I think that you're on the right track and you're going to figure it out. And obviously, please feel free to reach out. And I'm terrible at emailing, I'm not going to lie, but feel free to text me anytime. But yeah, it's all going to work itself out. And, you know, I think that LaSalle has a lot of really good resources and tools for, you know, continued success for the students that are going there. And, you know, you always kind of have a family. So regardless of whatever happens going forward, it's going to be just fine.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's it for this episode. I'm your host, Hannah Balkowski, and we'll see you next time.